Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. MashaAllah, what a lovely, hot and sunny day here in London. Inshallah, you guys are enjoying the weather wherever you are. And inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all your deeds and also your fast in this holy month of Ramadan. I'm your host, Mohsin Shah, and joining me, as always, for these Islamic discussions is Sheikh Ali Ma'aj. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
How are you this evening?
Alhamdulillah, fine. Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. Sheikh, we've been having discussions throughout the whole of Ramadan on different topics on the Ahkam in regards to fasting and also the different Amal within Ramadan. And yesterday we were discussing on Zakat al-Fitrah. Inshallah, let us continue our discussion. But before that, quick reminder to all the viewers that this is a live show. If you have any questions you'd like to ask, you can get us on the WhatsApp or on email, or alternatively, you can call us. Inshallah, I mean, Sheikh will be happy to discuss your question. The number and the details are over there somewhere, inshallah. Sheikh, yesterday we were talking about Zakat al-Fitrah, and one thing came to mind was, what if there is a student, okay, who studies and lives away from his parents? So this student, he's away from the family. Technically, he probably has his own, like the government pays for his salary and for his living expenses. Is he obliged to pay Zakat al-Fitrah by himself, or does his father have to, intervene? Because he's still sort of dependent, but he's getting aid. I believe Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani, Hafadullah, I believe he discusses this matter. What does Sayyid Sistani say?
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. Yes, the Eminence, the Sayyid mentions that if his expenses in terms of, let's say, the accommodation, food and drink, clothing, and so forth, the daily expenses of this student is upon the government, they offered him accommodation, let's say, wages or salaries for this individual who studies, grants, whatever is the means of the payment is, then he needs to pay for his Zakat al-Fitrah. In this case, if this was the situation in which the government are paying for him. Ayatollah Shirazi argues that if the father is the one who is spending on this student, or his son or his daughter, the father is accommodating this student, who is his son, paying for his food and clothing and transport and so forth, then it is obligatory and wajib upon the father to pay Zakat al-Fitrah on behalf of his daughter or son, who is a student, since he's a dependent. So even if he doesn't live or she doesn't live with them, but because they are dependent, then the father is responsible to pay for their Zakat al-Fitrah.
I see. Excellent. Sheikh, an individual lives independently in his father's own flat. So the father owns a flat and, the son lives there. His expenses are from his own income. Who should pay the Zakat al-Fitrah, the son or the father? Now, Ayatollah Sheikh Isaac al-Fiyad, Hafidullah, I believe he discusses this matter. So we've got someone who's living in his father's property, but he probably has his own money and he pays for himself. Who should pay the Zakat al-Fitrah in this situation? The father or the son?
If he was independent on his father, although he is living in his, let's say, father's second flat or third flat, for example, and the actual flat with all its, appliances and attachments are for the father, but because he is spending on himself from his own pocket, i.e. the student, the son or the daughter, then he should pay his own, or she needs to pay her own zakat, because they are getting their own income from, let's say, the government, or they might work part-time, for example. So if they spend on themselves, then they have to pay their own zakat.
I see. Excellent. Sheikh, when paying zakat, do we need to deduct the tax from its original value, or do we have to pay the value of the tax? I think Ayatollah Sistani discusses this as well. What does Ayatollah Sistani say?
Yes, His Eminence mentions that it is mandatory and wajib to pay the cost of the, for example, rice or flour, or the dates or the raisins, the cost, in a way that allows for this poor individual, for this poor person to be able to go and to buy. Regardless of the tax or the VAT and so forth, you buy something, the item, the rice, the flour from the market, from the supermarket. If he is able to buy that, that's it. This is the amount of zakat in which will be applied for those poor people, to pay them basically. And that's why we have, as I've said yesterday, that zakat is roughly £5 per head in the UK. So yes, when we pay this £5, let's say, and they're going to buy, of course, they're going to buy from the supermarket shelves, and there are VAT on it, taxes, and so forth. So they pay for whatever is the price in the market, the cost of the item.
I see. Excellent. Sheikh, let's move on to other questions now and then other topics, because we've had some sent in as well from the viewers. When it comes to the land that the government gives to individuals to live on, so we have like council housing and stuff like that, and home welfare. Is it liable for khums? Can we pay khums? Are we supposed to pay khums on that property?
Well, if this individual does not reside and live in that place for in that year, because if you don't live in that place, then it seems to be something excess on your wealth and income. So if you don't go and live in that place, and you leave it, let's say, till next year, and the khums year comes, then of course the one is liable to pay the khums on the due date of the khums, because you haven't occupied that place. So it becomes excess, basically excess.
So as long as you're living in it, it's okay. If you're not living in it and it's excess, then you have to pay khums on it.
Exactly.
Fair enough. Sheikh, when it comes to swearing an oath using the name of other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so we know a lot of brothers and sisters maybe say wallahi, tallahi, but then I know in the Iraqi community it's very famous Bil Abbas and Abbas ibn Amir al-Mu'minin, or Bil Hussein, or they use the names of the A'imma or religious scholars or other religious personalities that are respected. What is the ruling in regards to this? Are we allowed to swear by taking other than Allah's name?
The oath or the swearing is not valid except with the name of Allah or His names. So wallahi, tallahi, billahi. That is the Shari'i form of the swear or the oath. Otherwise, the rest is not part of the Shari'i oath in which, or the swear in which the ahkam would apply if somebody ignores this oath or the swear, and he doesn't implements this oath.
So it doesn't activate the oath under Sharia law.
Exactly.
I see.
Unless with Allah's name or other names.
Fantastic. Sheikh, when it comes to another or an oath or covenant, is it permissible for the husband and the father to annul this oath, from the wife or the son? So if they made another according to the Sharia, if let's say we've got a son who says that if I pass my exams, I will do a ziyarah of Abu Abdullah Hussein if I pass my exams. Can the father cancel, void, and stop this nazar from happening, even though the son did it as prescribed by the Sharia law? Can the father nullify it?
Yes, it's permissible for the father to annul this oath or this nether and such like by saying, for example, I annul your nether, oath, or covenant on the condition that the nether or oath or the covenant has not been with the permission of the father or the husband. So this is how they utter the term or the annulling the nether or the oath or the covenant, because there's some kind of, let's say, authority, some kind of wilaya from the father towards his son, or some kind of authority from the husband towards the wife. There's some kind of responsibilities. So they have the ability, they can actually annul these types of covenants and so forth.
Sheikh, some people, instead of reciting the Holy Quran, would revise the verses without uttering any of the words. Can we consider this as recitation, and do they get the thawab? Now, I know Ayatollah Isaac al-Thiyab has commentary on this. What does he have to say about people who don't really recite or utter the words, but just looking at the words and just maybe reading it in their head or in their hearts? Does that still classify as recitation?
Yes, His Eminence, the Sheikh, mentions that it is not sufficient to consider the revising, in other words, to imagine the words in your head, as you said, or to just the movements of the lips without showing the voice, from the mouth, be it a low volume or high volume. You have to show some kind of that's what they call it, recitation. You actually utter the words. Somebody who's next to you can hear high or low volume. It doesn't make a difference. But it's just to read in your heart. That's not going to get what is required from the question asked. So the one needs to recite either with a high volume or a low volume, in which the one can achieve the rewards required, inshallah.
Shaykh, the next question is coming from the WhatsApp, and it's in regards to wudu. Someone's asked, what is the ruling regarding the hands touching the water remnant on the water tap during wudu? So I think this is quite common, where we're doing wudu, and sometimes to not waste water, you turn the tap on, you turn the tap off, and so forth. And sometimes there's water on the tap handles, and do they mix? Do they actually render the wudu invalid? Do they void? Do they make it batal or not?
There is no objection, because usually when you do the wudu, you must use the internal moisture and wetness which are on the wudu parts. You coming from the outside. So if you want, let's say, to do masah and wipe your head, you can't actually get wetness from the tap water, a new wetness. It has to be from the internal wudu process, the remaining water or wetness and moisture. But in this case, if the moisture, the wetness of the hand is more than the moisture which is on the tap water, then that's fine. If you have more moisture on your hands, which can overwhelm the moisture from the outside, that should be fine.
Shaykhna, when it comes to praying salah now, for some unfortunate reason, some people are in a position where they read the salah late. Let's say there's like 1 or 2 minutes left to pray the salah. Is it mandatory on that person to lighten the salah? Maybe do just the wajibat rather than the mustahabat or so, in order to make sure that they arrive and they submit their prayer on time?
Yes, they should lighten. I mean, the problem is if you keep reciting the salah, slowly and with all the mustahabbat, you'll end up with the sunrise, if it's Salat Subh, for example. And most of the salah would be outside the timing of the salah itself. So yes, the one should lighten to actually leave all the mustahabbat. In some cases, even the qunut, the one can actually leave it, because you do only the wajibat that is required in the salah, just to catch up with the time and avoid the salah to be outside its time. Although it's recommended for the mu'mineen, mu'minat, to make sure that they pray on time. I know sometimes someone wakes up a bit late because he stayed overnight, work and so forth, but we try our best to organize our times according to the salah, and not to organize the salah according to our own times and interests and jobs and so forth. So let's organize according to the salah times. So whenever it's the salah time, I stop. It's like lunchtime. Lunchtime is 1 o'clock. We stop. People the work, they stop. It's 1 o'clock, 1:30. We have to stop and go for lunch. You can't delay it till 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So best thing is to organize our time for the salah in which Allah Azza wa Jal would give his mercy on us and bestow his mercy on us, inshallah.
Inshallah, excellent. Sheikh, when it comes to noise in the background, and sometimes it happens, unfortunately, even in the mosque, in the Husayniyah, there someone wants to pray and there's a lot of conversation and chit-chattering and things going on. Is it permissible for us to maybe wear some sort of headphones or sound blockers so that we can focus and concentrate on the salah? Is this okay, or does this make the salah batil?
No, it's all right. It's okay. You can apply headphones on your head to avoid excess noise from the surroundings while you're praying. But it's better to find a quiet place, a quiet room to go and pray. Husayniyah, they have, I'm sure all the centers have special places, quiet rooms or places, or a small library, for example. You can go ask permission to go and to pray in these places instead of praying and you're actually hearing voices and sounds from everywhere. So it's better to find a quiet place and pray there.
Indeed. Excellent. Sheikh, is it mandatory to treat the furniture and utensils from a rented property, the accommodation of non-Muslims? Can we render this as najis or not, especially if they're non-Muslims?
Well, by default, the one should consider all these items and assets all tahir, even if it was somebody before this, the previous tenant was a non-Muslim. Because as I've said previously, the past shows that we have a base or a rule in which it says كل شيء لك طاهر حتى تعلم أنه نجس بعينه. Everything is pure, tahir, unless you're certain that it is impure and najis. Then you can actually avoid it or purify it, for example. So the actual or the original hukum is that everything is tahir unless you discover by somebody we trust, for example, witnesses, yourself, you've seen with your own eyes, for example, and somehow you become certain that this place or this item is najis, then you have to wash it or avoid it.
Excellent, Hassan. Sheikh, we're coming to the end of the show and I have one more question left, and it's an important question as well. The question is that sometimes when we speak to our maraja in the office, or even not in the maraja of the office, sometimes we receive fatwa via email or fax, maybe it's an image on WhatsApp and so forth, and there is, the fatwa and so forth, but there's no stamp or seal saying that it has come from a marja itself. Are we allowed to accept this fatwa? Are we allowed to rely upon this fatwa? What are we supposed to do?
Well, if someone is assured that this was issued from the office of the marja, then that should be fine. I mean, now we have even more than just asking the marja's office, for example. Now we have the websites. Their official maraja's websites. They have all fatawa for each marja in their own home pages, for example. This is one of the sources in which we can get the ahkam from. I mean, the ahkam show of these programs. Basically, we rely on many sources, such as the websites of the ulama, their textbooks, the Risala Amaliyah. We also check some of the groups in which they have, some of the reps have set up to basically bring the ara of the ulama and their opinions. So we try to find the most trusted sources in order to prepare these questions and answers for the viewers. So yes, if you are assured, have the assurance that these questions and answers are from the marja office and the marja himself, then you can rely on and take. Otherwise, if you have doubts, sometimes I see in some Facebook pages that somebody is writing a question and answer, but you're not sure if it's from the marja himself. So you have to be assured that these questions and answers are from of course, the answers from the marja office and not from people's, opinions, for example.
I see. Excellent. Thank you very much, Sheikh, for your time and for your efforts. We really appreciate it. Thank you to all the viewers also for joining us on Ahkam SOS. Inshallah, me and Sheikh have been discussing. We will be continuing our shows until Saturday, inshallah. So please join us tomorrow and the day after, also all the way up to Saturday, 6:30 here on Imam Hussein TV 3. If you have any questions, please feel free to send them in via the WhatsApp, the email address, or inshallah it'll be fantastic to speak to you guys, ask you about your Ramadan, and also to discuss your question. Join us tomorrow, 6:30 here on Imam Hussein TV 3. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.